Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. And the judge has finally awakened, and at the right time. I mean, yeah, he came back from the injury, but really wasn't himself, kind of slumping a lot and hitting a lot of ground balls. You know, you really wasn't seeing the power, but then the Yankees go on the West Coast. Yes, bummed out, you get swept in Oakland, but one of the good points of that, I guess, sweep, if there was, that the judge bats finally started to wake up. He hits a home run in the last game, figured, well, what's the big deal? Then they moved to Los Angeles, hits 3 more home runs, and then they close out in Seattle where he hits another 2 home runs. So that was 7 home runs in 6 games. You see the bat getting hot, which is good. Figured to let him hit some more home runs in September, really get hot, and then take that into October. The Yankees could really use that. But of the last home run in Seattle, he became the 3rd fastest player to reach the 100 home run milestone. So, definitely going to be more after this. But then, just funny enough, he actually joined his teammate Gary Sanchez, who just a couple games early in Los Angeles, he hit his 100th career home run, became the fastest catcher to do that. So you have these 2 players coming up together, pretty much even right now in the home runs. Hopefully they could be teammates for a long while. But the funny point about that, they become the 2nd and 3rd fastest players to reach the home run milestone. Pretty nifty. So the Yankees are sitting pretty in the AL East, double-digit lead over the Rays, even more than that, almost 15 games over the Boston Red Sox. So really, they are the AL East champs. I know you don't want to pop the champagne just yet, but it would take a humongous disaster in September for them to not be the AL East champs. So really now it's about how many wins do you have, because that's going to really matter in the playoff standings in terms of especially the later rounds when you go against, let's say, Houston, where you're going to want the home field advantage. I don't think the Yankees really have much of a shot going down to Houston and winning a lot of games. You want the games here at Yankee Stadium. So it's about that, and then when the players are coming back, you don't have to push anyone. You can just let them go at their own pace. You don't have to force anybody, again, because you are the AL East champs. So you get everyone healthy 100%. Don't force anyone back where they're going to tweak a hamstring or pull a ligament, stuff like that. Just get them back healthy. Get your pitches all lined up so when it comes September, everyone's fresh and ready to go. And the reason the Yankees had this big lead in the AL East, well, look at the division. Mainly the Baltimore Orioles, who have been terrible this season. The Yankees have beat the living heck out of them, going 16-2, whether down in Camden Yards or here at Yankee Stadium, just teeing off on them. Mainly Gleyber Torres has feasted on them all season. Almost had like a career in one season against the Baltimore Orioles. It's too bad there's not more games against the Baltimore Orioles in September. But, it's really not the Yankees' fault. People say, well, look at your record, but look who you faced the Baltimore Orioles. Well, the Red Sox did the same thing last season. They destroyed the Orioles, and that's what helped padded their 108 wins. So if the Yankees are going to pad it for them, too bad. You can't blame the Yankees for taking out the trash. And the Red Sox really threw in the towel when they shut down Chris Sale for 6 weeks. That's pretty much the end of the season for them. And it's just weird with the Red Sox and Chris Sale. I mean, he was just never healthy the whole season, so maybe there was some sort of injury he was trying to push through it and just whatever. I mean, he was never hurt enough to keep him off their list, so you'd throw him out there, but he just didn't have it this season. And the Red Sox in general, I just don't know. It was a really weird season for them. I don't know if it was a sophomore letdown because you're winning a championship. I know it happens to a lot of teams, but the Red Sox, I don't know. It's just coming into the season, they didn't have a great bullpen. They really didn't address it, and even around the trade deadline, they didn't really make a big push to add anybody. So the team was just kind of weird season. So that's kind of been always a track record with the Red Sox. They win a championship, and then usually the next year they're terrible. So maybe next year means they're going to win a championship. I don't know with them, but they pretty much just gave up on the season. So it's good news for the Yankees. So it's just kind of they could almost cruise a little bit across the finish line. Tampa's probably going to make a push a little bit, but again, you always want to look at those Red Sox, and the fact that they kind of waved the white flag for the season, they're pretty much handing it to the Yankees. The Yankees, again, are going to be the AL East champs. You don't want to get too ahead of yourself, but speaking of October, the Yankees, again, on a West Coast trip, did face the Los Angeles Dodgers, considered the best team across the National League and maybe the best team in baseball. And well, the Yankees were at a little disadvantage. Again, they're playing as the away team, so they don't have the DH. And of course, some players hurt, but that's not an excuse because they have players hurt as well. But the Yankees actually matched up pretty well with them on their home turf, winning 2 out of the 3 games. And the one game they did lose, again, that middle game, they only lost 2-1. And in that 9th inning, they had bases loaded and only 1 out. I mean, could have easily tied or went ahead and really swept the whole series. And in their 2 other wins, quite convincing, 10-2 the first night, and then the final game 5-1. So they pretty convincing that they could handle the Dodgers. And not only that, they beat the 2 best pitchers, Clayton Kershaw, Rin Ryu, I probably botched the name, but you're talking about not even 2 of the best pitchers in the Dodgers, probably 2 of the best pitchers in baseball, and the Yankees, again, handled them both pretty well. So if you look at if they end up matching with the Dodgers, I don't say, again, doesn't mean anything when it comes to October, but it just at least gives them the confidence that, hey, you know what, we went in these guys' backyard and we pretty much beat them quite handily. So if it comes down to the Yankees-Dodgers, which I think would be an awesome World Series, that's a feather in the cap for the Yankees. And the Yankee team chemistry, there's a lot of good stuff going on. Of course, last time with Aaron Boone and the whole Savages comment. Now you got with the Yankees, all these different things going on with T-shirts and slogans. But the latest one now is Brett Gardner smashing his bat on the top of the dugout, which I guess he's been doing for a while, but now it's getting recognition. And he's become sort of a madman. I don't know, it's maybe just building himself a character, so maybe the Yankees want to, more apt to resign him for next season. I don't know about that, but I don't really know if it's the greatest idea, especially going into the playoffs. I mean, do you really want to be upsetting these umps and getting kicked out of the games? And when it comes to October, you're going to need some calls, you're going to need some breaks, and yeah, I know it's good for the team, the fans get a root out of it, but I just don't think it's the best idea to really piss off these umps again, because you're going to need some breaks during the playoffs, and if he's got this, and these umps got these bad image in the back of their mind, you know what? They're going to give the call to the other team. That's just the way it is. And the month of September is when baseball teams can expand their roster, call players from the minors. And for the Yankees, of course, one of the big names everyone's going to be talking about, of course, is Clint Frazier. Should be up with the big squad. And if he impressed in September, you talk about, Stanton, even though he keeps saying, well, Stanton will be back, Stanton will be back. Well, they've been saying this for a while, and he has been back. So they might push him off. So if Clint could really impress, maybe there's an opportunity to be on the postseason roster. I just don't think so. Of course, even if he tears it up here, defensively, I think they still see him as a liability, and of course, they're going to give favoritism towards Cameron Maybin, which they should, again, because when it comes to the playoffs, you need the good defense. You can't have any drop balls and missed plays or singles that turn into triples. So you'll see Clint Frazier up here in September. If he tears it up still, probably they won't put him on the postseason roster. Now he'll qualify because he was up early in the season. He's eligible for it, but I just think, again, they worry about his defense, and you're just better off with Cameron Maybin. Even if maybe he's not as good as a hitter as Frazier, you can't mess around. You need great defense in the outfield in the playoffs. So Frazier will be up here. He'll get some, some laughs and giggles, of course, but postseason roster, not happening. And we all know the Yankees are all about power, but when it comes to playoffs, it's all about pitching, pitching, pitching. And yes, you want Severino back and healthy, at least whatever he could give you. 4 innings in a playoff game, that's good enough. Harmon keeps his great season going along, but really two Yankee starters who kind of been up and down, kind of a little disappointing, for most of the season, has been James Paxton, who they traded for. I thought he'd be kind of like a solid number 2 guy, maybe like 20 wins, something like that. Hasn't been the case with him, as well as Tanaka, kind of up and down a little bit. Now, Tanaka, don't worry about because we've seen him in the playoffs. He's good. So his regular season kind of up and down. You trust him a little bit. But at least with Paxton, it looks like, Yankees pitching coach Larry Rothschild kind of got the both of them straightened out a little bit. With Paxton, was more throwing more curveballs. Seemed like he was just throwing fastball. So as the hitter, you're like, oh, geez, what's coming next? And that's why he was getting rocked a lot. And Tanaka basically discovered a new grip on the splitter. That's helped him. So, and lately, their results have been a little better, going deeper in the games, not getting racked around too much, saving the bullpen. And again, if you have something like that pitching for games 2 and 3 in the playoffs, and maybe have you open as your game 4 option, that's pretty good. And if Harmon, it just seems like at some point he would hit this innings limit and start lagging a little bit, but it really hasn't been fabulous the whole season. And maybe that injury he had again mid-season was a bit of a blessing in disguise, where they were able to shut him down for a few weeks. Doesn't seem like they're really going to slow him down. September, they probably will limit his innings a lot because again, they just want him fresh as possible for October. And again, that's the luxury of having this great lead in the AL East, where you don't only have to push a pedal to the metal, you could ease guys up a little bit, and maybe only give Harmon 3 innings, and then you can take him out early because it doesn't matter anyway. You're going to be the AL East champs. On the other hand, J. Happ continues to be a dumpster fire this season. I don't know what happened to this guy. I mean, definitely not the pitcher that Yankees traded for mid last season. When he came, he was like 8-1 or 9-1 or something like that. I mean, he's pretty much a dumpster fire. He's giving up home runs left and right, and then you get stuck with the guy for another 2 or 3 seasons. And then you look at CC. I know you don't want to say bad things about CC. He's on his way out, but really in a bad situation. He's been out for a while, with a knee injury. Comes back for 2 games, and he injures the knee again. Doesn't really matter again. September, I think they probably just use a lot of the minor guys, a lot of the rookies and stuff like that. So, it's just a way for CC to have a kind of a chill, just, September where, all right, just go out. And I don't think he'll even be on the playoff roster, man. I don't know how he's going to get big hitters out in the playoffs. So he just might just be there more for a cheerleader, which is fine. And again, this is going to be his last season anyway. You're more conservative Happ because, you kind of committed to the guy for a couple more seasons. Even if next season he's your number 4, number 5 starter. I mean, you're lefty, you're paying him a lot of money, you expect a little better out of him. It just seems like he's just giving up 2-run home runs and 3-run homers all the time, and then he'll be fine the rest of the game. So maybe it's just a weird season, maybe he'll bounce back next season. But again, CC, Happ, 2 of them don't get a start in the postseason. In fact, I don't think that both of them even make the playoff roster. And you want a good starting rotation. Of course, we know the Yankees are built on the bullpen. Again, they're going to push their start as much as they want. They'll probably go 5-6 innings to start as the playoffs, but they're going to really rely on the bullpen heavily. Of course, Canely and Ottavino and Britton, but of course Chapman the most important. And it's good to see him now throwing 100 miles per hour again. Early in the season he was only throwing 97, 98. For him, you're like, what? 97, 98 Chapman? he's got to throw 100. But as the season's gone along, he's actually now hitting 100, 102 on the gun. And again, a good sign just to go into the playoffs because it's nice with his sliding. He's developed the sliding, he's worked off it, but it's much easier to just blow someone away with 100 miles per hour. Now, last episode, I gave my kudos to Mike Talkman, who I thought he was kind of a joke type guy. Yeah, they brought him up here to be a filler in, but he started heating up with the bat a little bit, so got a pretty good hitter for the Yankees. Now, I got to say the same about Mike Ford lately. Now, you look at his physique; it's like a softball player physique. And he come up, he was number 74, but he's filled in greatly. Started hitting some home runs, and a little over 100 at bats. Already has 9 home runs. So let's just say if you have a full major league season of, let's say, like 400 or 500 at bats, that averages about 35 to 40 home runs. So that's the type of pace and play he's been for the Yankees. Pretty good, surprising, and kind of important when Voit went down for a while. But you got to say with Mike Ford, you know what? I don't feel bad if we want to put him on the postseason rounds. I trust his defense. A left-handed bat, which the Yankees kind of need. Again, they're very right-handed. I wouldn't mind having that, even though maybe I would side with Voit a little bit more. Problem with Voit, though, he went down for a little bit with this sort of core issue, which, again, I thought he'd be done for the season just because they were talking about sports-related hernia. Anytime, again, sports and hernia, you put those two, it just seemed like he'd be out for a while, but he didn't have the surgery. If he did have the surgery, he was going to be out for a while, but just, rest and recuperate. He's back. We'll see if it lasts. Hopefully, doesn't re-injure himself because, again, you really want a good hitting Voit for the playoffs. So, but if Voit for some reason can't make it, you got options there. Of course, Mike Ford, been a good hitter for the Yankees, and of course, you got DJ LeMay, who's seen a lot of time there at first base as well. I think in a perfect world with the defense, you'd rather have DJ there, even over Voit, even over Mike Ford maybe, because DJ LeMay is just amazing defensively everywhere he goes. But again, I don't feel uncomfortable having Mike Ford there. And he changed the number from 74, which is kind of a call-up sort of joke play, you'll only have 2 weeks, to number 36. That's more of a formidable number. That means, hey, you know what, I'm going to stay around for a while. So I like that. I like the confidence. Hopefully they'll stay. We'll see what happens. But at least with Mike Ford, you have a good power left-handed bat, which was supposed to be Greg Bird. But, of course, Greg Bird is gone for the season. Yeah, they said, well, he might come back in September. He's done. He's probably done as a Yankee. He's done. Well, the Yankees have a nice lead in the AL East, so it's not too much drama at this time. Wait till like the end of September or October for that part. So it gives us a chance to have a little fun. So I'm going to transition to a segment I call What If? What If? What if Steinbrenner didn't fire this manager? What if the Yankees signed this player instead of that player? What if they didn't make the deal? A bunch of what ifs in recent Yankee history. Now, little ground rules. I don't want to get into injuries too much because we kind of did that a little bit early in the season. Plus, injuries are kind of like you can't really control that. It's not really someone's decision to have an injury. But I'm just going to make an exception for one of them, only because first of all, it was off the field, and also it was such a monumental thing. Not the injury itself, but what happened after that injury. That in terms of what happened to the Yankees in the past 2 decades, that you have to mention it. So we'll start it off here with number 5. Reggie Jackson. What if, after the 1981 season, after the 1981 World Series, the Yankees re-signed Reggie Jackson? As we know that Reggie Jackson left the Yankees after the 81 World Series, went to go sign with the California Angels at the time. Now, the Yankees did make it to the World Series in 81, went against the Dodgers, but lost, unfortunately. I meant the Yankees beat the Dodgers in 77 and 78. But in the 81 World Series, a little bumpy for the Yankees. First of all, Reggie hurt himself in the League Championship Series, so he missed the first 2 games. Now, the Yankees won the first 2 games anyway without him. Had a 2-0 lead, but then they lost the next 4 games to the Dodgers and unfortunately lost the World Series. And it was kind of weird because Reggie was cleared to play Game 3, and there's a little rumors of why Reggie didn't play Game 3 in Los Angeles. Some people say that Steinbrenner pulled him off, pulled him back, told Bob Lemon, the manager, not to play him. I don't know why, because then when Reggie came back in Game 4, he did what Mr. October always does, hit a home run. But again, it wasn't enough, and the Yankees lost. And I guess at that time Reggie was a little older. Maybe there was, that late Bronx Zoo Yankee dynasty team was kind of fading out a little bit. So I guess they wanted to break it up, move on. They let Reggie go. But you always wonder what would happen if he would have stayed. It's funny, his first game back, actually, he hit a rocket 3-1 home run off Ron Guidry to kind of stick it to the Yankees. And actually, Yankee fans were cheering him and booing Steinbrenner. But, if you look at the Yankees after that in the early to mid-'80s, for the most part, they weren't that good, as people say. So would have Reggie made a difference? Let's say they signed Reggie to like a 4-year deal. Well, if you look at the Yankees in 82, finished a few games under 500, so I don't think Reggie would have made a difference a difference there anyway. Now in 85, go back to 83, they had a pretty good season, 20 games over 500, finished only 7 back, so he might have made a difference there. Now the 84 Yankees team, they weren't terrible, but the Detroit Tigers, which were in the same league of them, has had a phenomenal season. Of course, there was no way the Yankees would have caught them as well. And of course, the Yankees in 85, again, only finished 7 games back in the standings. Again, good opportunity if Reggie was there. Maybe they would have made the playoffs. Hard to tell. Those Yankee teams in the early 80s, they were good. They were never great. I don't know if Reggie there would have made a difference or not. He was rather formidable with the Angels in the years he was there. And of course, he went to Oakland for his final year. Maybe one of those 4 seasons, the Yankees Reggie could have been a difference maker. Hard to say. But letting him go, Probably, though, at the end of the day, probably was the right decision just because he was a little older, and it's just, at the time, maybe they just wanted to redo the team. Again, after that, Lou Piniella left, he went to the broadcast booth, and then he had to kind of have the birth of Don Mattingly. It became Don Mattingly's team. So, but you always kind of wondered, what if? Don Mattingly. What if the Yankees re-signed Don Mattingly after the 1995 season? Now, it's a little bit of an urban legend out there that he just retired and that was it, and that's why they re-signed Tino. Or they signed Tino to begin with. Well, that's not exactly the case. Really what happened was the Yankees flat out just didn't sign Mattingly, and they actually went after Tino. Mattingly was hung out to dry there, so he really didn't retire until January of 1997. Actually, 1996, he just kind of sat it out. Again, he had a lot of injuries in the early 90s. He kind of just wanted to sat out, see how his body would feel. And actually, there's a little, rumors that the Orioles approached him mid-season. He kind of turned them down. Again, it was formidable in 95. He hit 288, but again, the power hitter guy of the 80s wasn't there anymore, and I guess he probably felt he couldn't play the game. Again, always good defensively, but you always wonder if the Yankees, maybe, after the 95 season, he gets his first taste of the playoffs. I know they lose to Seattle, but, for the first time he experienced the playoffs, maybe he gets a little hungry and says, all right, I want to come back next season. They got this, manager Torre, they got these players in. I think if he made more of a public stink, people still loved him, he was still Donnie Baseball. If he made a stink about it and for him wanting to come back, I think quite possibly the Yankees might have signed him early and not even signed with Tino. So you kind of think, what would happen if Mattingly was on that 96 team? Would have they been a World Series champion? Probably not, because if you look what Tino provided, the 25 home runs as well as his 117 RBIs, there's no way you're going to get that from Mattingly. Mattingly probably maybe hit 10 home runs if you're lucky. He'll play, great defensively, but he wasn't going to give you the type of power Tino that he got. And if you just look at that, dynasty Yankee team from the late 90s and 2000, well, Tino was kind of a cornerstone there. So if you had Mattingly there and Tino signed somewhere else, you would never have gotten Tino. Now, you never know how the Yankees would have been in 98 and 99, but 96 championship, there's no way they would have win. And of course, later in 96, they brought, when they got kind of close, just missing that one little piece, that became Cecil Fielder. He was a big help in the playoffs, especially against the Baltimore Orioles. Well, again, if Mattingly's there and this team's not winning the AL East and not getting to the playoffs, they don't probably make the deal for Cecil Fielder. And again, they maybe get in as a wild card, possibly, but if they get into the World Series and beating the Braves with Mattingly, no way. So again, it was good that Donnie walked away at the right time. Fortunately, his body gave out. Again, he was only 35 when he retired, so he kind of retired relatively young, but he just left the Yankees at just the right time. He didn't make us think about it, so kind of them signing Tino wasn't a big deal. And again, of course, the Yankees went on with the Torre dynasty and all that great stuff. So sorry, Donnie. Buck Showalter. As you know, Steinbrenner was very pissed off and disappointed that the Yankees got eliminated by Seattle. Again, up 2-0, lose the next three, kind of disappointing fashion. So right after the playoff series, Steinbrenner fires Buck Showalter. But you probably think, what if he didn't fire them? What if he actually let Showalter manage the 96 Yankees? What if they gone on to win the 96 championship? What if they gone on to be that dynasty? Well, kind of tough to say. And with Buck Showalter, he's actually been very snake-bitten over the years. With him, it seems like he built a club up, and just when they're about ready to be a championship or make a championship run, he either gets fired or something happens like that. Happened with the Yankees, happened with Arizona, happened with Texas, even though, all right, Texas, didn't win this a World Series, but it's just like he kind of developed these players, and then he gets bounced the right time. And then Baltimore, he had a couple good seasons there. It's just he could never really get over the hump, and it's unfortunate for Showalter because he actually is a good baseball guy, but getting back to the Yankees situation, would he have been able to handle that 96 team Yankees and above? Again, you got Jeter, you got all these new faces coming in, you got Tino, the free agent, you have Cone there, and you have Pettit. I think Buck would have been okay, but the problem with the Yankees, throughout the 80s and early 90s is that you had the cloud of Steinbrenner over the team. And the one good attribute of Joe Torre, who was just able somehow to almost like put a shield over the team where he wasn't able to interfere with them. He wasn't able to get into the clubhouse. So, usually Steinbrenner was usually antics. He would go to the press. He would call a player out. He would cause division. That's why he was great. Even though the chaos worked in the late 70s with Billy Martin and sort of the Bronx Zoo Yankees, that wasn't going to work with the 90s Yankees and the mid-90s Yankees. I just don't think Showalter had the personality to sort of block Steinbrenner Ross, whereas Joe Torre, kind of easygoing, cool guy. Again, remember they called him Clueless Joe when he came in, but is this his relaxed manner? Was this the perfect fit with some of these new Yankees, such as Jeter? And the whole team just took on Torre's personality. And it was one of the rare times where you say, the manager really makes a difference, because, again, the team just kind of took on to Torre, and it became like Torre's team. And really, Steinbrenner was almost starting to go in the background. Yeah, he's starting to get a little old a little bit, but putting Steinbrenner more in the background allowed the Yankees kind of just do work on the business, let the business guys, let the GM do what they got to do, and let the team win. So again, I think if the Yankees, didn't fire Buck Showalter, I don't think you see the championship 96 Yankees, and you probably don't see that dynasty. You got to give it to Torre. Aaron Boone. What if Aaron Boone didn't play pickup basketball? Pickup basketball? Why are you asking like that? Well, it's kind of a thing. I'll give you the backstory towards it. Now, in 2003, the Yankees picked up Aaron Boone, who now, again, of course, the current Yankee manager, from the Cincinnati Reds. And actually, funny enough, I was there when he played his first game in Baltimore. I actually rode down the elevator with him. I was staying in the same team hotel. Can't tell you which one that is. Very private. But, I was there, and then that night he hit a big 3-run home run to put the Yankees ahead. And maybe it was just something special about him that even though he's this on-the-script, even-kill guy, that he had some sort of special Yankee magic powers. And then hopefully that's going to translate into a championship now. But back to 2003. So he was, unfortunately the Yankees did lose in the World Series to the Florida Marlins. I guess they were Florida at the time. But he was slotted in to be the starting third baseman for the 2004 Yankees. Unfortunately, him and his brother play a pickup basketball game in the backyard or the mother's backyard, who knows. He tears his Achilles. Well, now he's out. While this is all going down, the Boston Red Sox are trying to engineer a trade with the Texas Rangers to get A-Rod up here. They were going to swap 1-for-1. Manny Ramirez, again, tremendous player, but I guess at the time A-Rod was considered the best player in baseball. So they were trying to get A-Rod more to get him up here to play shortstop, kind of more stick it to the Yankees. Of course, at the time I was like, yeah, the Yankees got the best shortstop in Derek Jeter, and they had something going there a little bit with Nomar Garcia-Powell, but his body started break down, and he wasn't there for the long haul. So they probably wanted, hey, let's get A-Rod in here, then he'll be the starting shortstop, and he'll be the best shortstop in the AL East. So yeah, they wanted to get A-Rod. It was probably a little bit more also sticking it to the Yankees a little bit. But unfortunately, well, at least unfortunately for the Red Sox, yeah, the two contracts didn't match up with the money. I don't know, basically MLB said how they wanted to offset the money, these two mega contracts. It wasn't legal, whatever a free agency rule or trade deal rules there are. So Major League Baseball actually nixed the deal. Now Brian Cashman stepped in and said, wow, great, well, we need a third baseman. Red Sox just made fools of themselves with this whole trade that didn't go through, so let us go for A-Rod, and they did. He offered Alfonso Soriano to the Texas Rangers for A-Rod, a 1-on-1 deal, and actually it was a pretty good deal for the Yankees because A-Rod was in that original contract. Well, Texas actually ate up a lot of that money just to make the trade happen because Soriano was making peanuts. So really overall for the Yankees, getting the best player at the time in the game, they really weren't paying a lot for that, and it was a really sweet deal for the Yankees, made the Red Sox look like fools. And you kind of think, what would have happened if, Aaron Boone didn't hurt himself? And, maybe, I don't know, you still made the trade for A-Rod, but maybe not. Maybe A-Rod would have stayed in Texas. That would have been fine. And you kind of think, what ramifications would it have had? Would the Red Sox won in, 2004? Well, probably would have run either way because, Manny, again, still would have been there. You still would have Ortiz. Again, the 2004 Yankees was very disappointing. They blew, of course, they blew the 3-0 lead in an embarrassing fashion. But if you look at what happened after that with Aaron Boone, maybe, but maybe A-Rod doesn't come to the Yankees. And what would have been the ramification there? Well, kind of had to tell because, A-Rod gave the Yankees some good years. It gave an MVP type year in 2005, gave the Yankees an MVP year in 2007. But then, unfortunately, things started going downhill. And you had the Mitchell report in 2008 with the steroid allegations. Then he had the hip injury. And he comes back in 2009, has the incredible playoff run, gives the Yankees a championship. So it's hard to say, was the A-Rod deal worth it or not? Hard to say. He only got one championship out of it. Got a lot of great stats, but then his body started to break down. Then 2014, go back into the steroid stuff again with the biogenesis stuff in Florida. It's just kind of weird just how this, Aaron Boone getting hurt brings A-Rod to the Yankees, and what happened after that? It was just, so much drama. I mean, a lot of money for A-Rod. They gave A-Rod another $300 million after the 2007 season. What would have happened if, A-Rod didn't come? They didn't give him the $300 million. Whether the money went somewhere else. So it's hard to say what would have happened. I just think, if you wanted to focus on 2004, Boston Red Sox still probably win the World Series because, again, I don't think the Yankees would have been as good if they would have had Aaron Boone at third versus A-Rod because, again, it is A-Rod. So at least the Yankees would have gotten to that championship series against the Red Sox, but they probably won it. But the biggest difference is that bringing A-Rod to the Yankees, all the drama and all the money spent and all the back and forth. After that, you probably, I'm sure Cashman and the Yankee ownership probably wish that Aaron Boone just didn't play basketball that day. And to close us out at number one, got to go to the closer, Mariano Rivera, of course. What if Mariano Rivera was traded to the Tigers for David Wells? Interesting, it almost happened. But the unlikelihood of Mariano's success for the Yankees even goes back further than that. Yeah, Mariano Rivera in the early 90s in the Yankees farm system, 92, has an elbow issue, needs surgery ultimately, and now around the time he's recuperating, you have the expansion of the 93 teams, which was the Colorado Rockies and then the Florida Marlins. Well, for these rosters, basically, baseball allowed them to pick any player they want from any other team. So let's say a team like the Yankees, they had their protected players, or every team had this. You had your protected players and your unprotected players. If you were an unprotected players, well, either the Rockies or the Marlins can just scoop you up. Well, at the time, Rivera was considered damaged good. He just got off his surgery, so the Yankees maybe left him unprotected. So he could have very easily been swooped up by either the Marlins or the Rockies. But again, the injury might have been a blessing because I guess the Rockies and the Marlins felt the same way about Rivera. Well, he just had surgery. He's damaged goods. We don't want him. So basically the Marlins and both the Marlins and the Rockies pass on Rivera. The Yankees are like, all right, I guess we still got him. So that's how he stayed in the Yankee system. So it might not even gotten to 95 at that point. He could just, again, easily be pitching for the Rockies or the Marlins, and his career probably never would have been as great, as successful as it was. Who knows? He might have been done with baseball after 1 year. That's just how unlikely the whole thing is. But we'll fast forward a little bit. He did recoup, get himself back, and the Yankees brought him up as a starter, try him out in early 95. Unfortunately, his first game got bombed, gave up 10 runs, and his first 4 starts, he was horrible. His ERA was a little over 10. The Yankees sent him back down to the minors. We're a little disappointed with him, and that's at that point where there's talk about trading him to the Tigers for David Wells. Now, the Yankees had their eye on Wells for a while. They would ultimately sign Wells as a free agent in 97, so ultimately they got their Wells. But they wanted Wells much earlier than that. They would rather trade for him instead of have to pay for him as a free agent. So the deal doesn't happen for whatever reason. The Yankees hold on to Rivera. So he's down in the minors. So he pitches one game. This one game is a rain-shortened game, only 5 innings, but Rivera technically throws a no-hitter. No hits through 5. The Yankees are impressed. They say his velocity's up to 95, 96, so they figure, all right, let's bring him back up to the major club. And he was a little better, had a good start against the Chicago White Sox. Had a little stint back in August where they had to send him back down. It was more of a roster move. But then, of course, they brought Rivera for the playoffs again against Seattle, and that's really where Rivera, made his mark, defined himself. Had 5 1/3 scoreless innings against Seattle, was absolutely untouchable. Unfortunately, of course, we mentioned a few times already in this episode, the Yankees were bounced out by the Mariners in '95, but at least it put Rivera on the map. And then going into '96, they had the idea, all right, let's have this guy just, forget about him being a starter. Let's just have him come out of the bullpen. And that was his specialty in '96 for the Yankees, is coming in the 7th and 8th inning, blowing about 5, 6 batters away, and then, of course, passing the ball off to Wetland. And, of course, then Rivera would ultimately be the Yankee closer for years to come and have a Hall of Fame career. But you think, what if? What if they just traded him in '95 to the Tigers for David Wells? None of this would have even happened. Of course, we mentioned before, would the Yankees had this dynasty if they didn't have Joe Torre? Would have had the Yankees would have had the dynasty if they didn't have Tino Martinez? Well, yes and no, a little bit with Torre Martinez, but there is absolutely no way the Yankees win in '96 or have the dynasty without Mariano Rivera. I mean, he's pretty much the key guy, even though he's a reliever and only comes in for 1 or 2 innings. But the way baseball changed at that time, for him to be such a sure thing in the playoffs, you see so many closers and so many pitchers just crumble under the pressure. He didn't. He had a few hiccups, but look, you're in there so many times, you're gonna have some hiccups. But in fact, that trade doesn't happen. The fact that trade doesn't happen gave the Yankees 4 championships, made Derek Jeter, made Andy Pettitte, made Bernie, gave all these players these rings and these accolades and all this fame and everything like that. Gave Torre this great status when just before that he was this kind of a mediocre schlub manager, made him like a god almost in that sense. So, and all this happened because of the simple trade that didn't happen. Now that's the top what if list. But more importantly, what if this episode just ended?